She called me a gold digger. In front of the whole family. At a funeral. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her. Because I knew something she didn't. My name is Caroline Meyer. I'm 42 years old, and I live in Sarasota, Florida. 5 years ago, I married a man named Daniel Brooks. He was 61. I was 37. That's all some people ever saw. They didn't care that we met at a library fundraiser or that we talked for 3 months before we even held hands. They didn't care that Daniel had been a widower for 9 years, that he'd raised 3 children on his own, or that he still mailed handwritten birthday cards to every niece and nephew. They saw a man with money and a woman with eyeliner. And they decided I was a problem. When Daniel passed away, I expected grief. I expected loneliness. I expected long nights and paperwork. What I didn't expect was for his daughter to accuse me of manipulating her father. Her name is Sabrina Brooks. She's 34, works in digital marketing, and lives in Atlanta. We had never fought. Never even had a sharp word between us. She came to our wedding. She smiled in the photos. She sent a text on our anniversary last year that said, "You make him happy, and that makes me happy." And yet, 3 days after the funeral, she stood in front of Daniel's open casket, turned to her aunt, and said, she was just waiting for this. I bet she already called the estate attorney. I heard her. Everyone did. And nobody said a word. Sabrina didn't stop there. The next day, she sent an email to Daniel's attorney, questioning the validity of the updated estate plan. She claimed he had been pressured. She said I had isolated him. She said he hadn't been of sound mind when he made changes last year. Daniel had been many things in his final months. Tired. Slower. Grieving the loss of 2 friends. But he had not been confused. He still read the Wall Street Journal every morning. He still handled our taxes himself. He still remembered to order my favorite lemon cake for my birthday. Sabrina claimed he was vulnerable. That he would have never changed his will unless someone had coerced him. That someone, of course, was me. She didn't come to me directly. She didn't ask questions. She went straight to court, filed a formal petition to contest the will, called me an opportunist in writing, said Daniel had been taken advantage of by a much younger woman. I should have seen it coming. There were signs. The way she looked at me when I helped Daniel walk after his knee surgery. The way she hesitated before hugging me goodbye at Thanksgiving. The time I caught her staring at my engagement ring when she thought I wasn't looking. But Daniel had always reassured me. He said Sabrina just had a hard time with change. That she'd come around. That she'd see, in time, that we were real. He believed and loved the way some people believe in science. With certainty. With proof. With a quiet kind of pride. Daniel wasn't perfect. He left socks everywhere. He never figured out how to use our smart TV. He forgot to cancel the water delivery even after we got a filter. But he was kind. And loyal. And he made me feel like I wasn't too late. Like love wasn't just for other people. He didn't just marry me. He made me his partner. He brought me to every meeting with his financial planner. He added me to every account. He told his attorney exactly what he wanted, and he documented every word. So when Sabrina challenged the will, she wasn't just calling me names. She was accusing Daniel of not knowing his own mind. She was accusing him of being a fool. And I wasn't about to let her get away with that. The attorney's name was Meredith Hatch. She was in her mid-50s, sharp suit, sharper memory. Daniel had been her client for over 20 years. She knew his handwriting better than most people knew their own. When I met with her after the funeral, she handed me a file. "This is everything," she said. His final estate plan, the notarized documents, the video file, the logs from every update. I blinked. Video. She nodded. Daniel requested that we record his last estate planning session. Just in case. I didn't know he had done that. But it sounded exactly like him. The video was dated 11 months before he died. He had just come back from a trip to see his college friend, Graham, who'd been battling early-stage dementia. Daniel was shaken. He told me that night, "I want everything locked down. I don't want anyone claiming I was confused someday." He'd gone to Meredith the next week. In the video, Daniel sat upright in her office. His hair was a little thinner than the year before, but his eyes were bright. He wore the navy polo I bought him for Father's Day. He said, "I've reviewed every line of this document. I understand what it says. I understand what it means. This is my decision." Then he added, "And if anyone questions whether Caroline is the love of my life, they can kindly go to hell." I laughed when I heard that. Then I cried. Meredith leaned forward. "Caroline, this is airtight. Legally, ethically, practically. No judge will throw this out." But that didn't stop Sabrina. She claimed the video was edited, that I had coached Daniel, that Meredith had been compromised. She even started showing up at the house. Once at 8:30 in the morning, pounding on the door, demanding to walk the property line. Another time she left a note on my windshield. "We both know what this is." It rattled me, not because I feared her, but because I couldn't understand how she had changed so quickly. Daniel used to say she was emotionally young, smart, successful, but reactive. She'd had a tough divorce. Still got weepy watching dog food commercials. He said she needed time, but time had only made her angrier. Then, 3 weeks before the court date, I got an unexpected call. It was from Judith Keene, Daniel's former assistant. They'd worked together for 14 years before she retired. She said, "Caroline, I wasn't going to get involved, but I need to tell you something." Judith told me that 6 months before Daniel died, Sabrina had reached out to her, asked if she had copies of any of Daniel's older estate drafts, offered to buy her lunch in exchange. Judith had said no, and then blocked her number. "Daniel told me about it," she said. "He was upset. He said, 'She's looking for an angle.'" Judith had kept it quiet out of respect. But now, with Sabrina challenging the will, she felt she had to speak. I gave her Meredith's number. Meredith deposed her that week. Everything went on record. Meanwhile, Sabrina's attorney filed for a full financial audit. They claimed Daniel had been cut off from his family in his final year, that I had controlled his schedule, that I had denied reasonable access to his children. We submitted calendar logs, call records, photos. Dozens of them. Daniel on a trip with Sabrina in Asheville. Daniel having dinner with his son in Tampa. Daniel at a baby shower for his niece, 2 months before he died. He hadn't been isolated. He had been intentional. But Sabrina kept pushing. Because she wasn't after fairness. She was after a rewrite. She didn't want to share the estate. She wanted to erase me from it. And if she'd done her homework, she might have succeeded. But she overlooked one thing. Daniel hadn't just updated his will. He'd updated everything. His trust, his bank account beneficiaries, his healthcare proxy. And he'd done it all with a witness. His financial planner. A man named Owen Strickland. And Owen was about to become a very important person. Owen Strickland wasn't flashy. He didn't wear custom suits or quote financial jargon. He drove a 12-year-old Subaru and used a fountain pen he'd had since college. But when he spoke, people listened. Daniel trusted him. Called him the most decent numbers guy I've ever met. They met once a quarter for almost a decade. Owen knew more about Daniel's finances than anyone else alive. He was also methodical. He kept detailed notes after every client meeting. Not just the changes, but the reasons. Emotional context. Concerns. What Daniel said, how he said it, what he asked about twice. When Meredith subpoenaed him, Owen didn't hesitate. He brought everything. Timestamps, memos, voice recordings. And then he said something that changed everything. "I advised Daniel to include Caroline more fully," he said under oath. He was already planning to. I just helped him execute it cleanly. That didn't sit well with Sabrina's attorney. "You encouraged him to shift assets in her favor?"
No, Owen replied calmly.
"I encouraged him to protect the woman he loved from the fallout he suspected might come." He said Daniel had grown worried after seeing how his friend's kids fought over a vacation condo. He didn't want that kind of war.
He wanted clarity.
So, he created a plan that couldn't be undone by emotion or accusations. Sabrina's lawyer tried to shake him, questioned his objectivity, asked if he had anything to gain. Owen smiled. My job is to safeguard client intent, not family egos. Meredith gave me a small smile from across the table. It was the first time I felt like I wasn't drowning. But Sabrina wasn't done. She filed a motion to freeze the estate distribution until a judge could rule. Said there was ample reason to believe undue influence occurred. She cited Daniel's age, our age difference, my presence at key meetings. It was insulting, but also strategic. She was stalling, trying to drain me. Legal fees were piling up. I'd already burned through most of my emergency savings. The house was in limbo. Daniel's life insurance couldn't be touched. His accounts were frozen. I started selling off things. A watch Daniel gave me on our second anniversary. A rare first edition book he found at an estate sale. I hated it, but I was not going to let her win. One night, I came home to find a letter taped to my door.
No envelope.
Just folded paper with messy handwriting. You don't belong in that house. You never did.
No signature.
But I didn't need one. I installed cameras the next day. Filed a police report. I didn't tell Meredith. Didn't want her to think I was losing my grip. But I was exhausted. The grief. The whispers. The way people at church started hesitating before saying hello. I miss Daniel. His steadiness. The way he made everything feel solvable. Then, the week before the hearing, something happened I didn't expect. Daniel's son reached out. Elliot. He was 30, lived in Chicago, mostly kept to himself. I'd barely seen him since the funeral. He sent me a simple message.
Hey.
I'd like to talk. We met at a diner near the courthouse. He looked tired, wore a hoodie that still had a faint cologne smell, the same one Daniel used.
He didn't waste time.
Sabrina's wrong, he said. I don't want anything from you. I never did. I blinked. Then why haven't you said anything? He looked down at his coffee. Because I thought maybe she was just grieving. That she'd come around.
He paused.
And because I didn't want to fight my sister. Then he pulled out a flash drive. This has a voicemail from Dad. From when he made the final changes. He explains everything. I think the court should hear it. I stared at it. Why now? He gave a small shrug. Because I watched her rip our family apart. And I think Dad deserves better than that. September 18th. Probate Court, Sarasota County. Courtroom 3B. I wore a simple black dress and the necklace Daniel gave me the night he proposed. It was a pale blue sapphire, small but elegant. He used to say it reminded him of my eyes when I laughed. I hadn't laughed much lately. The courtroom was half full. A few of Daniel's extended relatives. 2 of Sabrina's friends. No press, no cameras. Just grief and tension wrapped in legal formality. Sabrina sat across from me. Sharp pantsuit. Perfect posture. Jaw tight like she was chewing glass. The judge was a middle-aged woman with a calm voice and meticulous notes. She began by acknowledging the emotional nature of the case. Then she said, "This court is bound by evidence, not sentiment." Meredith went first. She laid out the timeline. Daniel's meetings. His intentions. The changes made with full consent and legal clarity. Then she played the video. The one Daniel recorded with Meredith. Silence fell. Daniel spoke plainly. He smiled. He cracked a joke about living long enough to see Florida summers become even more unbearable. He said, "I'm not confused. I'm not coerced. I'm in love. And I want my wife to be protected." Sabrina didn't move. Didn't blink. But her foot tapped under the table. Then Owen took the stand. He spoke without notes. Clear. Confident. Every sentence felt like a thread being tightened. Then Elliot stood. Meredith played the voicemail. Daniel's voice filled the room again. If anything ever goes sideways with the estate stuff, just remember I made these decisions. Caroline didn't push me. She never asked for a dime. I did this because I love her. And because I've never trusted Sabrina's sense of fairness. You know that. You've seen it. I looked at Sabrina. Her hands were clenched in her lap. But her shoulders had sunk. The judge recessed for 30 minutes. When she returned, she didn't waste words. The petition to contest the will is denied with prejudice. She continued, there is no credible evidence of coercion, fraud, or undue influence. The documentation and testimony submitted to this court reflect a clear and consistent pattern of informed, voluntary decision-making by the deceased. Then came the last sentence. This court finds that the actions of the petitioner were not only unfounded, but reckless. Sabrina's lawyer didn't speak. Sabrina stood up and walked out.
No apology.
No glance back. I sat still. The moment didn't feel victorious. It felt heavy, like justice and sorrow sharing the same seat. Afterward, Elliot walked me to my car. He said, "You don't owe her a second thought." I said, "I wish Daniel had seen this coming." He replied, "He did. That's why you won." The estate settled in 3 weeks. I kept the house. Daniel's accounts transferred without issue. The insurance was released. Meredith sent me one final letter. In it, she included something I hadn't seen before. A handwritten note from Daniel. "Caroline, if they ever question you, let them. You don't need to defend yourself. You just need to show up. The rest is already handled. I love you. Always." I framed it, hung it above my desk. It's been 9 months now. The house is quiet, but peaceful. The flowers Daniel planted still bloom. I replaced the smart TV he could never figure out. I keep the lemon cake stocked, just in case I need to feel close to him.
Sabrina hasn't contacted me.
Elliot texts sometimes. He sent a photo of the sapphire necklace he got his girlfriend for Christmas. Said, "Dad would have approved." I think he would have. Because Daniel didn't believe love had an age limit. He didn't believe family always meant loyalty. And he sure as hell didn't believe that silence was the same as guilt. Sabrina called me a gold digger. But Daniel knew better. So did the court. So did the people who mattered. And now every time I walk through this house, I remember. He left it to me not because I asked, but because I stayed. Loved him. Protected him. Even when others didn't. And when the time came, he protected me back. With paperwork, with foresight, and with the truth recorded in his own voice.